This is part 2 on photography, maladies, and diseases. Oh yeah, you got these suggestions from various people, including Humberto Garcia. I believe I'm probably saying his name right. And some other people. A couple of these are obvious than I knew, but I just forgot to mention. GAS, gear acquisition syndrome. People think that I have it, but I don't. We know what that is. I got gas. Gotta acquire new gear. Old lens syndrome. Olds. These were, I call these neophytes or mental midgets. I call them lots of things. These are people that believe that only the latest and greatest lens technology made out of plastic made in China is any good. You know, if it just rolled off of Nikon's assembly line, it has to be new, it must be great, it must be better than everything before it. And this is bullshit. People that suffer from old lens syndrome are dumbasses. I've shown countless images from like old lenses and how they make soap bubble bokeh or donut bokeh. They make beautiful, unique images. People are like, oh my god, how come there's not a lens out there like now that does that? Because that's an old lens, you know? I just got done making a video about why photography has lost its soul, so there's a deep reason behind that. It's because now photography is run by measure baiters. People that only care about sharpness, vignetting and chromatic aberration at the cost of everything else. They totally lost sight of the fact that photography is an art form. They're dumbasses, they're knuckle-dragging, subhuman morons. They have destroyed the soul of photography, but I see that very, very recently has started to swing back the other way, and people realize, you know, photography is an art form, you know. Ultimately, because some of the best images I've ever seen, it's like, I want a print of that hanging on my wall. They're really fuzzy or really grainy or fuzzy and grainy. One of my favorite images someone submitted to a contest is this little mouse that's about to get pounded on by a cat. The whole image is fuzzy as piss and it's grainy. But it is beautiful. 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 People forgot photography is an art form. Lens whore. I guess that's what I would be maybe, although not really. But these are actually part of the measure baiters, call them lens whores. Tech worshiper. A lot of these are phony fanboys. Tech worshippers. They only care about, I call them spec sluts. Their specifications. They don't care whether they like the camera overheats and it's a piece of crap that the company replaces like 8 months later. Ha ha ha, who am I talking about? They are tech worshippers. Their specifications. So, oh my god, this camera has 10 billion autofocus points and it's super compact and it's a replacement for the one that they just came out with like 6 months. Tech sluts. Okay? These are also phony fanboys. You know what a phony fanboy is? It's someone that's a button sniffer. I have absolutely no respect for Ken Rockwell. I'm sorry. I mean, I really don't have... I don't have any respect for him because of all the really stupid stuff he says. Just don't have any. He did say one thing accurate that someone once linked me to, and he said that Sony people are button sniffers. He might have called them button pushers. I call them button sniffers. I think he did call them button pushers. I called them button sniffers. These are spec sluts. These are tech worshippers. They're not photographers. They're always measure baiting everything. A lens breather. Good. These are people that breathe on their lenses or their sensors. There's like a guy on YouTube. He's like an old dude that looks like an insane version of Santa Claus's cousin. And he's telling everybody, it's like, it's a really good idea to breathe on your seat. Not only his lenses, but it's like, he's like, it's so stupid. You should never do something that dumb. A glass hole. I guess I'm a glass hole. Glass hole depends on how you define a glass hole. A lens snob, someone that thinks... my definition of a glass hole is somebody else that's... they think that one lens maker always makes the best lens. I mean, Nikon makes tons and tons and tons of lenses and tons of lenses they don't make anymore. Nikon makes some really awesome lenses. They're getting away from that. They're turning to plastic crap made in China, which I don't care as long as it's optically perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect lens. I got to backtrack on that. As long as it's optically beautiful, they're churning out lenses now, especially primes. They're trying to reinvent perfection, which you can't do. You should not try to recreate the 85mm 1.8D lens. You shouldn't do it. Okay? You shouldn't do it. The lens is perfect the way it was. You can increase the autofocus speed with better autofocus tracking mechanism. That's one thing, but totally redesign it optically. Very stupid. Glass holes. Chimpitis. You know what chimpitis is? That's where you're constantly, and every time someone takes a picture, and like studio photographers, they don't do this. So what they do is they go out there with a light meter, go click, and they take their measurements. They might look once, and the rest of the time it's all off a light meter. Chimpitis. So you take a picture and you immediately got a chimp up. You take another picture, and then you hit the play button. You go chimpitis. Another one someone else came up with, and we all got different names for these people. HDR pukes. HDR pukes. People that, man, it's like half their photography is HDR photography. High dynamic range. You know, if it's what your client asks for, give it to them. I agree with the HDR pukes comment. It's the disease. Pixel peepers. Someone will blow it up to 400% and look for like a slight bit of chromatic aberration. Pixel peepers. We know what a pixel peeper is. This is my favorite one because it is so applicable. These people are almost as bad as Sony, except they're not insane like Sony users are. Sony users get so upset because there's nothing worse than a phony fanboy. A phony fanboy is he's rabidly insane. The next underneath him is a Leica licker. A Leica licker. That's someone that just thinks because it's got the Leica stamp on it that it means anything. Leica, after the days of film died, old Leica cameras from film, Leica film cameras and lenses, exquisite. You know, I had Leica cameras. They're awesome. Had a pair of them. Loved the Leicas. You know, you love that heavy brass body you knew you could club people with. The digital photography Leicas, no, forget that stuff. I mean, with Japanese and Chinese electronics inside, you know, you just paid 5 times as much for something that's got Leica's name. These are Leica lickers. They're snobs. They're rangy snobs. I mean, rangefinders. Call them rangy snobs. Leica lickers. Leica lickers. CPS. Compulsive Photoshop Syndrome. We know what that is. If someone takes an image and then they just totally molest it in Photoshop and Lightroom. They pass every photo they have through dozens of masks and filters, and it is completely, and you know, it's all about the final image anyway. But it's like they can't just tweak something and leave it the hell alone, or get the lighting right to begin with. And sometimes you can't, you know, it's too far off. You know, you got to mess with it. If, however, you can control the lighting and you don't, and you're a lazy schmuck and you want to sit in front of your computer scratching your nads for 3 hours, sticking mask upon mask upon mask, and tweaking and molesting an image 9 ways, that you're a compulsive Photoshop syndrome sufferer. So that's the answer to that one. Thanks for all the submissions. Some of those I forgot to include, which I knew about already, like gas and glass holes and pixel peepers and Leica lickers. People that lick Leica Leica lickers. That's a good one. I call them different things, but Leica lickers, that's pretty good too. Okay, thanks. Bye.